You have to learn this new language of seduction. To be a great seducer, you have to be interested in people.
But one quality that's very anti-seductive is preaching and moralizing.
Seduction, there's a body language to it. There's a kind of nonverbal communication. It's like a child. Seduction is reaching the child of everybody. You have a misconception about seduction.
What are the qualities of a great seducer?
What makes for a great seducer is very simple. I can summarize it very simply. Seduction is a high form of power because you make people feel pleasure. You make them feel excited or interested in you, and then their resistance to your ideas slowly lowers, and you have the ability to influence them and to move them in the direction that you want. If you yell at them, like how we were talking about your child, and you tell them, do this, do that, they resent it, and for good reason. But if you're subtler, if you're more seductive in your approach, if you're more indirect, people will do what you want or go in your direction without ever even realizing it.
I tell people, when you go see a movie or you read a book, let's say a movie, and you feel like the movie is casting a spell on you, it's drawing you into the story, and it's having an emotional impact on you, and by the end of the movie you're moved, or you're crying, or you're laughing, or whatever it is, that is a form of seduction where you've allowed your psychology to be penetrated by a director, a writer, or whomever, and you're seduced. And it's actually an amazing power that humans have. The problem is some people are closed to seduction. They don't want to be seduced. They're not interested in other people. I find seduction to be a very social phenomenon. To be a great seducer, you have to be interested in people. Women are very prone to words, to just hearing, to the verbal aspect. And seducers, the typical Don Juan of the 17th century, they discovered that through language, through poetry, through casting a spell on a woman with their words, that this was the weakness that they had. And so many of these great early seducers were just great talkers. It's interesting because if you look at like some of the great ones in the 16th, 17th century, they were not handsome men. They were actually, one of them was physically repulsive, but had such an incredible way with words that he could seduce almost any woman. So first of all, there's the desire to be a seducer, which a lot of people will say, oh, I don't want that, I'm not interested in that. And what I'd say in the book is, remember the time that you experienced probably in your life when another person had fallen in love with you, and you sensed that you had power over them, that they were under your spell, that the things that you said excited them and interested in them. The walls, the resistance that people normally have are so frustrating. You can't reach your kids, you can't reach your wife, the people at work, they're closed to you. And in that moment when someone had fallen in love, that wall came down and you had this sort of back and forth electricity. It's amazing. You love it. It's powerful. It's great. You want that. You don't want the sexual version of it in your office, obviously, but you want to be able to persuade, to get people to lower some of their usual walls and resistance to you. So the first thing is, you want seduction in your life. Believe me, you want it. The other thing is, you have a misconception about seduction. It's not this, as you say, this villainous male, kind of figuring out these very cold, calculating strategies. That's not what it's about. There's got to be a naturalness to it. If you're someone that has calculated their way too much in the process of, this is what I'm going to do, step A, B, and C, it's not seductive. People can read it. Seduction, there's a body language to it. There's a kind of nonverbal communication. And we sense that another person is trying too hard. They've read a book. They read The Art of Seduction and they're applying the 24 strategies. It doesn't work. You have to bring out natural qualities that you have. And I maintain in the book that every person has a kind of natural quality that makes them authentically seductive, whether it's the natural who's kind of childlike and spontaneous, or the rake, or the siren, or the ideal lover, whichever type it is, it's in you, it's latent, it wants to come out, and that's what will make you a good seducer. People are dying to be taken out of their lives, out of the banal day-to-day work, and to be taken on a ride. They want enchantment. They want some drama in their life. They want pleasure. I talk about in the book, it's like a child. Seduction is reaching the child of everybody. And when you were a child, you were 1 year old, what was the greatest pleasure you had? It was being picked up by your father, your mother, and kind of whirled around and taken everywhere and lifted and twirled, etc. The sense that someone was taking you somewhere and you were under their control made you laugh. It gave you this incredible pleasure. And that's what happens when you see a movie and it takes you on this journey where you don't know where it's going, what's happening next. People don't have enough of that in their lives. And a classic thing in the seduction realm will be a man or a woman saying, I love you. Like, when will they say, I love you, is a big deal. And all I try and tell in the book is, that's not the language of love. That's not the language of seduction. It's something nonverbal. You have to learn this new language of seduction. It has nothing to do with words. It's in your body language. It's in your actions. It's so much more powerful when the other person feels that you love them. Benjamin Disraeli is one of the greatest seducers ever. I mean, absolutely brilliant. First of all, consider this. He was a dark-skinned Jewish man in England who became prime minister. And imagine the prejudice against somebody like that in a country like that. How did he ever do it? Because he was a charmer, a seducer. He could seduce the birds out of the trees. He seduced Queen Victoria. She was madly in love with this dark-skinned Jewish man. And the whole art of it was, for Disraeli, was to make the other person feel like they were special, they were brilliant. There's this woman who said, after sitting next to Gladstone at dinner, Gladstone was the great rival of Disraeli. After sitting next to Gladstone at dinner, I thought he was the most brilliant man in England. After sitting next to Disraeli at dinner, I thought I was the most brilliant woman in England. Gladstone irritated people because he was so argumentative, so superior. Disraeli charmed everyone because he made you feel like you were special, you were brilliant. And he gave you the sense that you were the star of the show. Here he took Queen Victoria, the most prudish, uptight woman you can imagine, and he had her completely under his thumb. She wrote a book which nobody read because she wasn't a writer. But she had vanity, she has ego, everybody has ego. And so now Disraeli would refer to her, he would say, we authors, when we write, and he was a great writer, but he made her think that she was a writer like he was. I mean, the guy is one of the great seducers of all time. So getting back to the nonverbal aspect of seduction, there's words that you can use to reason with people, and there's a place for that, and it's important. And there are words that you use to cast a spell. So when we read poetry, when we read Shakespeare, we're not looking for rationality, for logic. We're looking for that spell, for that feeling, for that emotion. One of the greatest male seducers that ever lived was Errol Flynn, the actor. The power that Errol Flynn had, I had to study it and figure out what was the secret to his success. It wasn't really anything he did. He was completely undefensive. There wasn't a defensive bone in his body. He was open, non-judgmental. And women would say that when you would get into a room with him, you were afraid of this guy. 10 minutes with him in the room and you lost all of your inhibitions. They said it was like drinking 4 martinis just to be there. They hadn't drunk a thing. It's because he was so relaxed. that he would pass that mood to you. Human beings are not just logical animals. We're physical. We have bodies. And our emotions, our physicality responds to the physicality of the other person. These are the sort of the grammar of seduction that you have to learn. People consciously won't admit to wanting to be seduced, but everybody secretly wants to. So the key is everyone's different. What would seduce one person, what they unconsciously need or want or are missing in life, is not the same as another person. I just remembered this anecdote. It's not in my book because it's happened to me. When I was young, 21, I lived in Paris. I was working at a hotel. And I met a man who worked at this hotel. This is a hotel where all the models stayed in Paris. He was this Brazilian man. He was the greatest seducer I've personally ever met. And he was seducing everyone, and I was just amazed. I couldn't believe what was the secret to this guy, his success. And one time I was with him, I was walking down the street, and he was with his latest conquest. And this other woman came up to him, all angry and bitter and crying. It was somebody that he had seduced and abandoned. And I go, we're going to see a fight. It's going to get ugly. 30 seconds later, she was completely melted and was back under his charm. And he was like signaling to us to leave. It was because he was like that Errol Flynn thing. He had nothing defensive about him. He was sort of like, yes, I understand. And he, through his physicality, through the fact that he didn't get angry, that he didn't get defensive, he didn't start defending himself. He didn't say, well, let me explain. No, he just immediately went into this sort of calm, loving, intense attention mode, and it worked on her. I know that's what I was getting at. Her unconscious. She just melted in front of him.
What makes for a great seducer is very simple. I can summarize it very simply. You are outer directed. So when you meet somebody for the first time, or you're on a date or whatever it is, you're not having that internal monologue going, does she like me or does he like me? Am I dressed well? Am I saying stupid things? What can I do to impress them? No. You turn it off and you're outer directed and you're listening to them and you're entering their spirit and you're hearing them say things that give you idea of what they're missing in life, of what they want, of what their needs are, of what makes them an individual. You're absorbing it, you're entering into their spirit, and then you can reflect it back to them. You can give them gifts, you can take them to places that show that you're attentive to them. Because if you look at how we are in our day-to-day life, normally people never pay us attention. They're always so self-absorbed. They're never thinking about us. The times where you get the sense that people are actually interested in who you are as an individual is pretty rare. If you give that feeling to someone, it's incredibly powerful because we all want to be validated. We all want to be recognized. So the seducer is not someone who's all worried about him or herself and thinking. They're involved in the other person. They're absorbed like a sponge inside their psychology, inside their world. But one quality that's very anti-seductive is preaching and moralizing. Is like telling people, oh, that's wrong what you just said, or your politics are ugly, or you're not really good at this, or something or other. Having a moral superiority, a sense of sanctimonious in a realm which should be about pleasure, where should be that kind of equality, that kind of back and forth dynamic, where you're asserting your moral superiority, is deeply, deeply anti-seductive, the element of preaching to people. Not being generous, and I mean not just with money is important, but not being generous with your spirit. You want to be open, you want to give as much as you can to the other person of yourself, of your time, of your money, of your energy, etc. So being all kind of crimped and I don't want to give, I don't want to spend money, I want to take you to the cheap place to eat, I don't want to give you much time, is very, very anti-seductive. A lot of men would come to me with this problem after I wrote the book, which is I'm always thinking about what I should say, what I should do in this situation. I'm in a bar, I'm meeting her for the first time. I'm thinking, what should I say in this situation? You've got to flip the script. got to stop thinking of yourself, about your insecurities, about what you must do, about what you must say, about your behavior, about how you look. And you must focus on the other person, on what they want, what they need, and what their world is like, and what their spirit is like. I call it Enter Their Spirit, which is one of the chapters in The Art of Seduction. So people who are kind of so insecure that they are constantly talking about themselves and nervousness, they're constantly repeating things about their life, and they can't really direct attention. You don't feel that they're open to you. It's all like closed there. That's a very bad sign. You want a sense that you can affect them emotionally and that they can affect you.